I, female, 32, my sister Iris, female, 28, and my mom, female, 50, have been running a local curated goods shop for ages. My mom started it 20 years ago after my dad passed away. She used a significant chunk of our family savings and bet on the business becoming a success. It did. And as soon as I was 18, I also began to work there to keep the family legacy going. In much the same way, Iris joined 10 years ago as soon as she turned 18. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call this business a fourth family member for us. It allows smaller artisans to sell all their stuff in one marketplace, and that's kind of the main reason we've survived and thrived for so long. The people of our hometown know us, and the bonds we build created a lot of customers. The artisans also never sell their products anywhere else. Yeah, there is a big supermarket here, but it doesn't really compete with us because we stock things that only the people of this town might want or need. Like, there's this old lady who makes a mean hangover cure, and we bottle it and sell it at our shop. It's like an urban legend, and everyone comes to buy it if they party hard. That's just one example. Anyways, this little shop has some magic to it. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of my memories are even formed here. I met my husband at this building. He was a customer. My mom and I shared our first drink together here, and there's just a lot of weight to this place. I just gave birth to my son, Tom, and because of that, I've been a little ditzy and preoccupied. I did take 4 months off, but I find it fulfilling to work at the shop. I will say that in the time I was gone, Iris added some changes which I don't really approve of. For example, she made an addition to the store which sells a large brand of organic foods and goods. I mean, it is nice and people do buy it, but it's like the same stuff you could get at a supermarket. Iris also thinks that we should give more shelf space to big brand items and raise the prices of our artisanal stuff to make our shop kind of a one-stop location for everyone. This is way too much for a tiny enterprise like ours. And I feel like it's just stirring the pot. Mom is pretty hands-off about the business now and is even thinking of retiring. So this issue is just something I have to butt heads with Iris about. The raised prices also don't really benefit our artisans and give us a bigger profit, but it's going to erode the trust we have in the community. I set up a meeting with a few people who sell their goods at our store to see what they wanted to do about the change in the future. Needless to say, it didn't go down well with my sister. Now, here's where I messed up. A few hours before the meeting was scheduled to happen at a local cafe, my baby had a really high fever and my husband was out at work. I had organized a sitter and everything, but I wasn't comfortable leaving my kid alone while I went off to work. His fever also continued to rise and I ended up taking him to the ER. In the midst of all the hubbub, I completely forgot about the meeting. All the artisans and craftsmen who sell their products through our shop were left confused at the restaurant, and I also didn't pick up any of their calls. I think it was really unprofessional of me, and I know it doesn't present a good look for us, but I know these people personally and cleared the air and apologized to everyone as soon as I could. However, one of the artisans had called Iris when I didn't show up, and she jumped on the opportunity to portray me as an airhead to Mom. I hate to say this, but she literally manipulated our mom and also pulled on her heartstrings about me having a kid to raise. The issue was that my mom didn't think I should come back to the shop so early because she has a lot of conservative ideas about who should do what at home. My husband usually gets to work from home and only goes to the office once or twice a week. And I also do a lot of stuff from home too. If I need to go to the shop, I'll often take Tom with me, and our customers don't mind at all. Despite all of that, after the missed meeting, Iris and Mom were kind of in cahoots about deciding to move me out of the business. Legally, everything was still in Mom's name, so I was worried about the outcome of Iris's scummy behavior. And as I guessed, I had every right to be. When my mom officially stepped down from the business, she gave the entire business over to Iris and told me that it would be best if I stepped back for a while. Obviously, she didn't directly say that I should never work at our shop again, but by handing over the reins to Iris and just Iris, that's exactly what was going to happen. I knew that if I stayed, Iris would just slowly reduce my authority and Mom wouldn't step in to support me. So I made the call, as painful as it was, to stop working at the family shop and just become a homemaker. I gave up, basically. The next few months were quite painful as I watched our business drastically change from afar. Before, it used to be a place for the town to get specialized stuff, but it was slowly growing into like a Whole Foods in everything but name. The people who lived in our town and made products to sell at our store slowly shifted to selling online because Iris didn't prioritize them, and eventually foot traffic came to a halt. However, I did settle into keeping myself busy at home, and I will admit that my bond with Tom was gotten stronger. I like my new rhythm and don't feel as bad as I used to about not being able to run the shop together with my family. I still try to not talk business at family gatherings because it was still a touchy subject. And Iris and I became quite low contact after she took over the business. But I was still surprised to get a call from Mom where she wanted me to meet with her to talk about the shop. I went over to meet her and she immediately sat me down and said, "OP, your sister has royally messed up the whole business." And I know this sounds douchey, but I responded with, "Yeah, I know." While Mom had left the shop in Iris's hands, she still assumed that it would keep the same energy that had kept it running all these years. But since my sister became a trend chaser and spent more on making the store look good as opposed to having useful stuff on the shelves, she also doesn't listen to my mom's advice and told her that she's looking to sell the property to some big conglomerate. Who knows whether our shop will be there in a few months? It'll obviously make a lot of money through the sale, but that's not the point. After we were done, my mom asked me if there was anything I could do. Now, I had no idea what she meant by this because legally there wasn't. Instead, we could perhaps provide a united front and convince Iris to make changes together. While the latter seems like a decent option, I couldn't commit right away because I was still angry at my mom for giving the business over to Iris. I told her that I would need to think about it, and it clearly upset her. When I got home and told my husband about it, he did reassure me and said that it would be okay if I chose not to take part in her plan to get the business back. But at the same time, I need to understand that my mom was manipulated by Iris too. I don't think that was a reasonable enough justification. But he says that it's clear from the fact that she called me that she understands what she did was wrong. WIBTA if I don't get involved with the business's future now? It would hurt to see something so important to me die, but I feel like I'm being used if I go back in there. Update 1. My mom called me in the morning after I made this post. I didn't realize this, but one of my younger cousins is on Reddit and he saw this post and ended up putting two and two together. My mom got to know and she didn't even know the full story about the missed meeting. Even though I had a medical emergency at home, Iris stretched the truth to make it seem like I used my son's health as an excuse to get out of the meeting. I was so shocked at what my sister had done, and I really went off on my mom for never bothering to fact check with me. I just knew that Iris had mentioned the missed meeting, and I did discuss Tom's fever, but up until now, my mom just thought I was fluffing it up. I was really angry, but my mom said, "Please, OP, I don't want to lose both my daughters. I stood for your sister, and she went against everything we built. Now, I don't want to lose touch with you, too." And that softened me a little. I'm still very angry at her for not listening to my point of view when Iris started bitching about me, but what's done is done. Right now, let's try and figure out a way to save the shop. Update 2. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Iris already sold the property to someone. She did it without telling either me or Mom and announced it through a group video call. Both of us were so angry at her, and it escalated more and more until I got overwhelmed and just cut the call. My mom called me a few hours later and said that she was beyond disappointed in Iris. They're not speaking right now, and I'm also not going to bother keeping in touch with my sister. It's become clear that money means more to her than anything else. We can't do anything about the shop now, but my mom and I really want to figure out an avenue for people to sell their stuff in this town, and I think making an online version of our store might be the best bet. Update 3. Picking up from the last update, I was right. I spoke to a few people who worked with us before, and they said maintaining and running Shopify sites was tough for them. A lot of them aren't that tech savvy, so I floated the idea of us running the logistics for them while they focus on making their products. This went down really well, and our new business is doing amazing thanks to the word of mouth positivity that spread. It's got the same energy that was there in our shop, just with a modern touch. My mom and I are quite happy, and well, Iris may have made some bank, but she's also been cut off from us, and that's how it's going to stay. NTA, but it feels like a tough call. Your mom acted rashly by signing the business over to your sister, but I think you need to put your differences aside because it's clear this business means a lot to both of you. NTA, I think you need to write off everything to do with that shop, as hard as it is. Edit. Read the updates. While I wouldn't do what you ended up doing, OP, it's still something that makes you happy. Next story. Last weekend, my best friend was getting married. We've known each other since we were kids, so we're pretty close with each other's families. My mom was invited. I served as maid of honor. My mom was due to arrive with the regular guests. If you've ever been to a wedding, you know the morning of is stressful and you don't really have a lot of downtime. In the half hour leading up to the ceremony, we were having celebratory shots, doing final touch-ups on makeup and getting ready to walk down the aisle. Dress did not have pockets. I was leaving my phone in the dressing room. Now, this was a pretty big wedding, so as I walked down the aisle and then stood with the rest of the party, I didn't really notice who was there and who wasn't. Post-ceremony was the traditional group shots and what have you. So, of course, I'm not looking at my phone. Finally, we make it to the reception for the end of the cocktail hour while my best friend and her husband sign the marriage certificate, have a moment to themselves, etc. That's when my mom storms over to me and asks why I wasn't answering my phone. I was confused. That's when she showed me hers, and that she had texted me multiple times. She showed up 5 minutes before the ceremony and couldn't figure out where to park. Then she couldn't find where the ceremony was being held. It's a big property with lots of venues. By the time she got there, the ceremony was underway, and she decided to not make a spectacle and just hide out in another area until the reception started. Keep in mind, my friend included a sheet with detailed instructions on all of these things with the invitation. My mom said she had forgotten it at home, and would it have been so hard to answer her texts? I reminded her I was a part of the damn wedding. I didn't have time to look at my phone. She claims that there had to be some downtime. There honestly was, but I didn't think to check my phone. I was trying to make sure everything was going to run smoothly. Luckily, no one was nearby, and this didn't disturb the wedding in any way. Friend and her husband were blissfully unaware that she wasn't even at the ceremony, and my mom did get over it. We all had a great time at the reception. I've been thinking about it a lot. Were her expectations ridiculous, or was I being dismissive? NTA, your mom is an adult and needs to take responsibility for herself. That means making sure you're not late, knowing where to go, and allowing plenty of time. Showing up 5 minutes before the ceremony is due to start. Yeah, her poor planning is not your problem. NTA can't even fathom how rude it would have been for you to be texting your mom in those final moments leading up to the ceremony. She's one of those people who has no one but herself to blame, so of course she blames you. The only reason you are questioning yourself now is because she is pushing your buttons. She can push them because she installed them. Next story. For some context, I, 31, female, was raised by my single mother, My sister Angela, 24, female, was born addicted to substances, so she ended up living with her grandparents. We were raised more like cousins and sisters and have never really been close. My mom and I moved around a lot and I rarely saw Angela, but when I did, she was usually unpleasant to me. She got a lot of things I didn't: college funds, summer camp, new car, etc., and she made that clear. I left home when I was 16 and Angela was 9, and we kept in contact for a few years but eventually fell out of touch. We only reconnected after our mom's death, approximately 3 years ago, and even now we only talk every couple of months. Angela ended up becoming a mom pretty young, and she has a 3-year-old son named Peter. She has been on and off substances for years and is not able to support herself. Her grandparents have cut contact with her for the most part due to her lifestyle, and she has been moving from boyfriend to boyfriend since her son was born. A couple of days ago, I got a call from Angela for the first time in almost 8 months, saying that her boyfriend is in prison and she is being kicked out of their apartment since she can't pay the rent. She says her grandparents aren't answering her calls and begged me to let her and Peter move in until she can find another place. I absolutely don't want this. My wife and I currently have 2 children, 5 and 2, and I can't have that lifestyle around them. On top of that, my wife struggles with health issues, and I am a caretaker for her as well as our children. I do not want to be a caretaker for Angela, too. I told Angela this, but she said that she and Peter were going to have to live in a homeless shelter if I said no. Other than her grandparents, I am the only family they have. I don't want Peter to suffer for something we didn't do. So I agreed that he could come live with me until Angela got on her feet. Angela became very upset when I suggested this and said that I was trying to separate her and her son. She has not spoken to me since then, even though I have called multiple times to make sure she's okay. I don't know where she is right now or what is happening. I love my sister, but her moving in would disrupt my whole life. AITA? Nope, of course not. You don't have to take in anyone you don't want to, family or not. If that person is an addict, that's just another good reason not to want her around your young family. Your life is important. She's ruined hers. She doesn't have a right to ruin yours just because she's family. You did the good thing and offered to take her vulnerable, blameless son. NTA. NTA. This is a very tough situation, and you are making a generous offer to ensure Peter has a stable home. Many people wouldn't even be willing to do that. Your first job is to protect your children, and Angela has not proven herself to be a safe person to have around them. Your offer to protect her son from homelessness and from her lifestyle is incredible. I hope you continue to keep an eye out for him, even if she declines your help right now. You may be able to find outside resources involved to intervene in Peter's situation. At only 3, there's still time to make sure he doesn't follow your sister down this road. She would be mad, but that little boy needs help. Send you all the good thoughts. I don't think it's easy, but I'm thankful there are people like you out there. NTA, giving your nephew some true stability and consistent care is a huge undertaking, and I applaud you for suggesting this to your sister. As for your sister, she needs a serious wake-up call regarding her lifestyle choices. I would tell her flat out that she needs to quit the drugs and learn how to be an adult before you become a real part of her life. IMO, she's not reading the situation she's in incorrectly and doesn't understand how close she is to losing her child to CPS. Talk to her as if you were her mother. You are her older sister, so you would be correct in taking this tone. Substance abuse is brutal, and your nephew's early life continues to be brutal. Is he in school yet? All of this moving from one unsure situation to another must be tough. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.